Hi, my name is Suzanne Snyder, and over the last 10 years, I've been working and continue to work with many educators who teach investing skills and strategies. And I've met all sorts of personalities in that time. And what I've learned is how to pull out some of the nuggets of wisdom and get to the core of what they teach. So today I'm going to be asking AJ Brown, the president and founder of Trading Trainer, a question, a juicy question at that, and let's see if I can pull out some great advice for our viewers. Hi AJ, welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me again. Yes, I'm doing well.
Very good. Well, first I want to just take a moment and talk about some great initiatives you have going on at Trading Trainer. And one of my favorites that I want to point out and talk a little bit about is the chance where you give your community the opportunity to ask you anything over at askajonline.com. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Absolutely. You can see in my window here that I'm sharing that I've navigated to Ask AJ Online, and you can see here it's the Ask AJ Brown show, and this is where just about once a month we get together and we ask people, and this is just for anybody in the public. It's not for just somebody who's one of our program participants. It's anybody who can come to these calls. And the price of admission is your number one hottest, most burning question about investing and or trading. And we ask you to ask that question, what's your number one hot, most burning question, because we want to answer it. And what we're going to do is we're going to accumulate all the questions that come our way, and then we're going to find out which are the ones that are asked for the most. We're going to take probably the top 10, and of those questions, we'll make sure that we didn't answer them on any of our previous calls, and then we'll make sure that we cover all of our bases and answer as many of your hot burning questions as we can. So we like everybody to come, everybody to participate, and we're going to keep it rolling.
Fantastic. That's a great service you provide. And I'm so happy that today I get to ask you one of my burning questions, and hopefully our viewers will take something from this. The question today, to get you prepared for your next Ask AJ webinar, is what strategy do you use to exit or manage active trades?
Oh, that's great. So when you actually have open positions in the market, there are different triggers that should cause you to want to exit that position. And the number one trigger that you must have, I call it your risk stop. So when you plan these investments in advance, you want to set up some sort of trigger, and it could be a implied volatility amount, it could be a price threshold, but you want to set that, we call that our bailout. And then from that bailout, we then want to calculate what would be the worst amount of loss in our position that we would have if we hit that bailout. And when we set that bailout, we want that bailout to be our worst case scenario, meaning that the proverbial poop has hit the fan. So that risk stop has to be set no matter what kind of trade it is, no matter how you're trading, what investment vehicle you're trading. You have to have this bailout where you are throwing all caution to the wind and you're going to liquidate into cash instantly and take whatever losses you have, and you want to calculate from those what the worst case losses could or would be. And from there, of course, you're going to manage that risk through position sizing. But the other type of exit strategies that we would use in a directional position, for instance, we might be using some sort of trailing stop, especially if we hit some sort of profit target. That's where once we've hit the profit target that we expect, then we allow the trade to continue as long as it's going for us, and as soon as it goes against us, we'll knock ourselves out. So I like to use trailing stops in directional positions. And notice I said I like to use the trailing stop after a profit target has been hit. I'm not a fan for profit stops where when a profit is hit in a directional trade that we exit. That doesn't make sense to me, because if things are going our way, let it run. Let it run. Know when to let them run and know when to run yourself. When it comes to, for instance, a premium selling trade where we're collecting the premiums as time passes by, every additional minute we ask to be in that trade is a minute that something could go against us. So in those cases, I do like to use a profit target. If I can get to 80 or 90% of the expected overall premium, then I'll go ahead and liquidate it. That's kind of the 80-20 rule, where we get most of our wealth by spending 20% of the time in the trade. So there's a profit target suggestion. I also like to use technical stops. So for instance, if I'm entering in on trades where the underlying symbol, the trigger to get into the trade was some sort of indicators or combination of indicators telling me what to do, then the reversal of those indicators would be a good indication to get back out. And the last one might be just a time stop. But my strategy, my favorite strategy, is making sure not only do I have that risk stop, that's mandatory, but making sure I use the combination of these. And I like to, except for the risk stop, which will knock me out instantly, I like to evaluate these other stops end of day, and then use conditional trading the next trading day. In other words, program my conditions in order to get the exit trade filled into my broker software so that I don't actually have to be there. And I do that all the time. I have conditional strategies that make sure that the day of, after I've identified whether it be a profit stop, whether it be a trailing stop, whether it be a technical stop or even a time stop, to make sure that that still consists the day of. So some simple conditional trading rule. And that's really my general strategy for exiting, using a combination of these things, evaluated end of day, and then programming in my conditional trades for the next day. That'll make sure that what I've identified in that evening is still happening the next day, and if it is, pop me out of the trade.
Very powerful advice. So risk stop being mandatory, and then evaluating profit target, technical stop, time stop, just to recap for our listeners. Excellent. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, AJ. That was great advice, and I hope our listeners got something from this today. And just to recap, we want you, if you have a burning question for AJ, the best place to ask him is over at askajonline.com. Mm-hmm. You can ask your burning question there. And thank you again for being here and allowing me to ask you my burning questions. We'll revisit and maybe we'll pick your brain for the worst trade you've ever had and talk a little bit about that. So thank you again.
Thank you.